Welcome to that Transform Your Wellness podcast. I'm Karin Hagberg and I'm a health, wellness and life coach who help people transform their wellness and life and help them create more balance, ultimate wellness and a life they love. The Transform Your Wellness podcast is heartfelt conversations with incredible people who are contributing and following their passion and soul purpose. It's conversations with people who have not only transformed their own life, but also contribute to the world by helping others transform as well. So today I have the absolute privilege to have heartfelt conversation with Sara Pahi. I met Sara a few weeks ago in Torquay, here on the surf coast in Australia, and we went down the beach for an early morning dip in the ocean for some cold therapy. At that time, my intuition told me that I wanted to know more about this woman as I felt she had an amazing fighting spirit. Sara is a mother, wife, and she's currently studying to become a life coach. She was diagnosed with a stage 3 breast cancer 2019 and have gone through 6 surgeries, including bilateral mastectomy and 5 months of chemotherapy. She has 4 children from 13 to 25. She's originally from New Zealand, but has lived in Australia for the last 6.5 years. She's worked in the health and fitness industry for most of her life, and she was in the Army Reserve for a few years. Sara has faced many challenges from mental health, suicide attempts, abuse and domestic violence, eating disorders and cancer. Sara has learned from every experience, and she believes that she would not be the woman she is today without these experiences. Sara's passion now is to help others to connect to their potential and live a life from there. So today's title of this podcast is Show Up for You and Choose a Beautiful Life. And that title, I feel there's a really big message behind this title. That is how I feel. So a big welcome to you, Sara. And I'm not 100% sure if I pronounced your surname the correct way. Is it Pahi?
Pahi, yes, you did a very good job. Thank you. Yeah, it's my absolute pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's fantastic to have you here. And I'm really curious, maybe to hear a little bit about your life as a little girl. I believe you're from New Zealand.
Yes. So I grew up in Hawke's Bay, so east coast of the North Island. I have got an incredible family. I have a brother and a sister, and I had both my parents and grandparents. I was the first grandchild and great-grandchild on both sides of the family, so that was pretty special. So I had a really wonderful childhood. I came from a very loved family, but from an early age, I really struggled emotionally, and I think back in the day, it was sort of not really, I was just one of those kids that was always, never sitting still or getting into trouble, but I never felt like I fitted into my body. I always felt like I didn't fit into my body, and that I was always squirming. And the only time I felt calm actually was when there was a raging storm outside. And I would go and stand outside in the rain, and I felt complete stillness. And everybody would come inside, and I'd be standing there looking, looking at the sky. And yeah, so I think my experiences growing up, feeling that way definitely impacted on how I saw the world and how I was received, and then what I learned to believe. As I said, my family was incredibly loving and supportive of me, but I was hard work as a child, and I was the oldest. So it was like, wow, okay. Is this what parenting's like? So I lived in Hawke's Bay most of my life. We were in Coromandel for a little bit, but I did my schooling in Hawke's Bay and just continued on.
Mm. So how many brothers and sisters did you say you were?
One brother, one brother and one sister.
Yeah, yeah. So you felt a little bit like, what did you say about the body? You didn't feel like
I
really,
never felt like I fitted into my body.
yeah,
Like I had this, I can only describe it as like it was like I had this really tight, when you have a really tight piece of clothing and you just can't, you feel really restricted in it. I felt like that in my body. I never felt comfortable. Like I always just felt, I mean, to be fair, I probably would have got diagnosed with ADHD had I had that been, kind of more of a thing back when I was young. But
mm,
as it was I was just me,
mm,
and
mm,
but it did impact on how I experienced the world and
mm.
how the world experienced me.
Yeah. I definitely got that sense that you got quite a strong energy within you.
Mm.
And so from a child, when you felt that you kind of didn't really fit into your body and you had that kind of energy within you, how did you then, as you were growing up, channel that energy? What did you, I know you got into the health and fitness industry, but there may have been a lot of other things that happened before you got into that area.
Yeah, so I loved sports. So got into running quite, like my dad used to take me for doing a lot of running, and then I got into cycling. Like I would cycle, I think when I was 11 or 12, I was cycling 50 Ks 3 or 4 times a week before school, and then like 120K ride on the weekend. And that was just what I did. It was a group of us that went out and did it. And then I got into rowing. I think I was about 12, 13. I got into rowing. So sports was a great way to channel it. But one thing that I really struggled with is I started to lose confidence because I obviously wasn't what you so-called normal.
Mm,
And so I stopped putting myself in positions where I would be outside my comfort zone. So for me, pushing the boundaries of physicality, that was actually easy because that's when I felt alive,
mm,
So any physical challenge, I was in there. But, like I struggled at school academically. And, later on, it was sort of quite clear that I had dyslexia as well.
mm.
And so those sort of barriers, I lost a lot of confidence, and I stopped putting myself in positions where I would have to be exposed. So I'd play to my strengths, but if I was channeled on my weaknesses, I would get really upset and really irritated. And obviously, again, that was quite hard as a teacher or a caregiver to work with that. And so school was really tough.
Mm. Well,
Really tough.
sounds like you were lucky to have that outlet of sport, though, and your dad taking you out running. That's pretty extraordinary to do so much training even before school. And as we know, Sara, I think for me, myself, also having rode before, and I think I did tell you that briefly. So we got something in common. I think that's extraordinary. When I start talking to people, there's common things. So I think too, doing sport or channel that energy we got can be so helpful for our mental state. Imagine if you couldn't go out as a kid running and kind of using up that energy you had. It must have been to a lot of help for you to be active at the time.
Yes, and my family was very holistic. Like my grandfather was an anthroposophical doctor, and so I went to a Steiner school, and my parents tried absolutely everything to support me, to feel better about myself and to I guess combat what was going on neurologically and chemically within me. And And so I had all of that. There was a whole team, and on my father's side, my grandfather was a principal and my grandma was a nurse, and so everyone was just all hands on deck,
Mm.
and yeah, I'm so grateful, and I did feel from my family that unconditional love, and that's a value that I have carried with me all my life, and I believe it's a huge part of who I am and where I am today is because no one ever gave up on me. My family never gave up on me, and no matter how challenging it got throughout the years as I grew up and faced the adversity that I faced, they never knew what to do. Sometimes they really didn't know what to do, but no one ever gave up on me, and I am so grateful for that. And that unconditional love is just, I believe it's the most important quality in
Yeah.
us human beings, to be honest.
Yeah. And what a blessing that is. I mean, how many kids that are not in that situation where they get that love and someone being there with them, regardless of what they're going through. So, yeah, consider yourself very, very blessed.
Yeah,
And
I
I'm
do.
sure that, as you say, that's formed you in life, and you got kids yourself, and
Mm,
I'm sure your parents and your family are there with you now, and also for your kids. Am I right
yeah,
saying that?
yeah, yeah. And it's like I have right now, my parents have actually moved over from New Zealand to come and be with us as a family, and I have a sister that lives next door who has young children, and so we really value, even in this modern society that we live in where it's very fast paced, for us there is nothing more important than family and taking care of the people that you love, and we all try and like my parents are incredible, like I just
Mm.
much respect for them, and I just yeah I especially as a mum and getting older, I just can't kind of say I just, having lived the life I've lived and seen what I've seen in family units, and and even my own experiences, it's just an incredible thing to have that still. And I feel in this this culture that we live in, so there's so much stress and so many breakdowns, and but this value, if you can find a way just to be together and just accept and love, and don't have to like or condone behavior, but you just let go of the stuff that doesn't matter and focus on what does,
Mm.
and that's people.
And I think, yeah, I listen to you, and I just think how blessed you are to be in that position. And I also think that, as you said, we got to accept each other as well, and remember that people are not their behavior. So
Mm,
as a parent, I think it's really important to remind ourselves that we're not our behavior. Behaviors can be altered,
absolutely.
but we're not our behaviors. Um, so, yeah, that's fantastic. So you got into the health and fitness industry, and what did you think about that?
So I mean, I think for me it was just like a natural progression, because as I said, I didn't like to do things that I wasn't good at because they scared me, and I felt uncomfortable, and I felt not confident, and I didn't feel good at them. So I focused on the things that I was good at, and obviously that was, you know, taking group exercise classes, and from anything from like aqua to I'm a CrossFit coach as well, but I didn't get into CrossFit till later because that was only been out for a few years. So it was just a natural thing for me how I managed my mental health and feelings of not coping with the world was through physical exercise. And it was like an automatic, I mean, I know what happens with, the dopamine and serotonin and endorphins and all that, but it was just like that switch. It was like when I would do something, oh, okay, therefore I can do this, I can do that, I can face the world, I am strong. And that was always, that door and that connection always happened through exercise. So when I went into the health and fitness industry, coupled with my ability to just help and want to always help people to just live their best life. I never kind of articulated it as that when I was younger, but that's always, I know what I wanted to do. And so for me, that platform was exercise. So, if you could start to self-care, feel good about yourself, then, you were worthy, then maybe you could start to, shift some of these, whether it's weight, whether it's mental fatigue, whatever was going on, stress, anxiety, and that can-do attitude, that we are so capable. And even when you think, just because you think you can't, doesn't make, you don't, just because you think it doesn't make it true. And I feel exercise was a real platform for sharing that message. And as I said, I was very good at it because that was my life. That's what I did. So I pretty much just went out and did that,
Yeah. So it sounds like it built your confidence even more in life too.
Yeah, it did. Absolutely. And it was always the thing that got me out of, so I had very serious clinical depression for many, many years. And it was always the thing that somehow, if I could just get out of bed and go for a walk, I'd start there. I'd always start running. I'd never just walk. But if I could just find the strength to just do one thing, I could switch it. And so it was like my medicine, to be honest. Yeah.
So how many years were you in the health and fitness industry?
Oh my goodness. I think I started, I think I did my net, was it net fit or whatever it was back in the day, training. That was, I think I was like 19. I'm 43 now.
So quite a few years.
Yeah, quite a few years. And, I'd have, breaks and, but I'd always come back to it. I obviously had my children and that in between, but I love training people, coaching people. I'm also a massage therapist, and so it's kind of anything that I sort of
There we go, we've got something else in common too.
Haven't done that for a few years. And I always, I had trouble with sticking with anything that was sort of outside that arena. I'm still like that now. Like, if it doesn't interest me, I cannot focus. I just can't. I just have no focus on things that I don't want to do.
But why would you want to do something that you're not passionate about?
Well, I can't live that way. And I tried at points in my life to fit into what other people thought I should be, and it literally just about killed me, so no.
Another blessing you got in life, Sara.
Yeah.
Big learning, no doubt, to there's a lot of shoulds there, and a lot of people telling their kids, you got brains, you should be studying that. I remember actually myself when I was kind of going from secondary to university, my teachers said, well, you should be studying engineering or medical doctor, because I had good grades and I really had the choice to do what I wanted. And I was a little bit of a rebel, I think, like you. I thought, why would I do that? It doesn't really interest me at all. And I went down the path to study a sort of a sports education degree and followed my passion of health promotion and that sort of stuff. And so I think to follow your passion is obviously, I think it's the key to happiness partly in life, because obviously we only live one life, and to spend it on something that we don't feel like we get enjoyment from, and also what our talents are, our strength. Why not share that with the world, hey?
And it's just totally flipping that, perspective, hey, that we need to fit into these boxes in order to be accepted, and why do we need to fit into these boxes? I have never fitted into a box, and I don't intend to start now.
But the funny thing is that who creates those boxes, really? When we think about it, I mean, as I look at it now, it's us. It's us that do it, really. I mean, we can be told, but it's us that allows us to be put in those boxes, rather than being, as I said, a warrior. And I had the feeling that you had that warrior spirit within. There's something within you that's that little bit of, I'm not going to do that. I don't like that. I'm going to do this because I like that. That gives me passion.
I remember one thing and I had this reoccurring dream, and I used to draw it when I was at some of the most challenging points in my life. And these points in my life were basically due to the fact that I wasn't living my truth. I was in situations that were totally not conducive to who I was, who I am. And I would have there was this picture of this little girl, and she was in this black little room, and there was bars on the window, and she was standing at the window, shaking, trying to shake the bars to get out. And I don't know, like every time I doodled, I was doodling this picture, and I dream about it. And it wasn't until I did some inner child work that I was able to go back and really just dissolve those bars and take her by the hand and bring her out and bring her up and say, it's okay. You don't need to stay in there. You are perfectly beautiful and amazing exactly as you are, and no one's going to put you in a cage. And in fact, the only one putting you in a cage, as you said, is ourselves, and if we're able to shift our perspective, and that's my mission now, what's possible? What's possible when you let go of everything that you are not, and that you think you are, or you've been told you are? What's possible? What's behind all that?
Absolutely.
I'll tell you what's behind it. It's your amazing, incredible, best self, who you authentically are, and who you authentically were destined to be, whatever that looks like to you. And what a place, how about, what does it take for you to start living from there? And what would your life be if you lived from that place?
Do you want my answer? I'll tell you the answer.
Yeah, tell me.
Well, I think that it's very hard not to live an authentic life. I think it's very, very uphill work to not be completely yourself. It takes a lot of energy, a lot of work. And for some people, it gets to that bursting, something in life happens when you're forced to kind of take a good look. And some people do it and some people don't. But yeah, I think it's really hard work, to be honest. And if I can get all the listeners to think about how lovely it would be to wake up in the morning with you as just you, with no filters, nothing, feel completely free, and you can say and you can do whatever you want to do. How lovely would that be? And how easy would it be? And I think particularly now, the energy that's going around, the shifts that's going around in the world, a lot of people are faced with the question, who am I? And we are also put in a position where we are given the opportunity to look within. And for some people, that can be very confronting, because if we have lived not an authentic life for a very long time, it can be quite confronting. So you mentioned, Sara, that you done a lot of inner child work, and I think that's extremely powerful. I've done a lot of inner child work myself, and I help people through some exercises where they also connect with the inner child. And it's so important to look at that, whatever little girl that you were, and look at from that perspective, asking that little girl what that girl wanted, or still want, because that girl is within us, isn't it?
That girl is within us. And, that's the girl before all the conditioning started to happen. That's the baby that's born. And, it's just the possibilities are all there. But then life happens, and that little girl is molded and shaped. It's not all bad. And I really feel that, as you said, to live a non-authentic life is the reason there is so much sickness in this world. Because when you're out of alignment with who you truly are, your energy's not right, so your physicality's not right, your mind's not right, and you're just not showing up who you're meant to be. And it's hard work, it's a grind, it's a slog. And I mean, I have been in that position where I have really had to sit down and go, feeling so bad, but being at the point where I didn't see the point of living anymore. That bad. And saying, getting to that place where it's like, but what, you don't want to live anymore, or is it you just don't want to feel this way anymore? And it's that. When it comes down to it, for me, it was that I did not want to live like that anymore. And so I thought the option was to not be here anymore. But no, the option was actually, if you don't want to live like that, how do you want to live? And quietly, that little whisper of possibility starts to, come in, and through nurturing that. And I mean, I tried the whole mainstream approach of medication and, lots of therapy. And to be honest, none of it ever did anything. Not the mainstream medical model. And I tried, I put all my faith in it. But what worked for me is connecting to who I truly am and letting go of who I am not. And that was through some pretty serious initiations. That was, I do the Wim Hof method, cold therapy and breath work, and that's been transformational. I jump in an ice bath every day.
That's crazy.
And I'm really particular about what I eat and what I put into my body, and also the messages I tell myself, what I believe, because this here is way more important than, all these external things. Like, if you're constantly not aware of those messages that you're telling yourself, it's really hard to be authentic.
Absolutely. And I was hoping you were going to say that, Sara. And I knew we were going to go in to that inner voice, that negative voice. And what I want to say with that is, because I work a lot with techniques where people actually connect to that, because I do hypnotherapy and as a tool in my coaching too, and another technique called AFT, where we connect to that inner voice. And what I think a lot of people, the mistake they do is they associate themselves as their inner voice or that negative voice. But once you can kind of distance yourself and ask yourself, where does that come from, and become acutely aware of that voice that is there all the time telling us things.
Be the watcher.
Yes. And obviously that inner voice can be either helpful or it can be destructive, but any thought we have, subconsciously or consciously, will obviously create feelings in our body. And then from there, it will also have an impact on our actions that we take. So you've obviously really started to realize that it's really important to address what's going on in your mind to make shifts.
And, ultimately, and I mean, there will be people that will disagree with this statement, and I'm okay with that. But ultimately, I believe I needed to get cancer to really become aware of the incredible power of the negative self-beliefs that I had about myself on such a deep level, the trauma that I had experienced, and then what I told myself from that trauma. And I had, before I had cancer, I would have said I was at physically, mentally, and emotionally in the best shape of my life, but it wasn't deep enough. I had not let go of all this stuff that really was just in my body. And I've had so much stress, and so many so many times things have happened that have caused pretty big trauma to me, that I just think my body was just manifested as cancer. And I felt it the minute I got diagnosed 2 years ago. I felt it so clearly, and I was like, wow. But from that very moment, I made a decision that cancer had showed up. It was not who I was. It was not, I would not define myself. I'm Sara, I have cancer. It was something that had shown up to teach me and invite me to let go of what was no longer serving me.
Absolutely. I mean, the body stores unresolved negative emotions, and we do that holographically all throughout our body. And a lot of the time, we're not really aware of it. But the interesting thing is, did you know that if we have unresolved negative emotions, basically the subconscious mind brings up things to kind of, they present themselves. Basically, you think you can shut them down there underneath, but things will just, the subconscious goes, here you go, deal with this. Here you go, you haven't dealt with this. Here you go. And that's what happens. And I guess how a lot of us human beings are, we kind of find it hard to face emotions, actually feel emotions, because we kind of got to ride through emotions to let go of them, don't we?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And I mean, it's such a big thing. And sometimes, obviously, it's very hard to deal with very deep, deep traumas and stuff like that. But there are gentle ways that over time we can help people do that. But it's important we do. And I also refer sometimes to what's happening in the world right now, because I think what's happening now is that we are faced with a lot of emotions that are coming up, and a lot of people don't want to feel them. And any listeners out there now, are you experiencing any uncomfortable emotions? And it's so confronting. We don't want to feel it, do we? Oh,
No.
like, and people, we want to be strong and stuff like that. And I go, well, it's important to ride through. It's okay to feel it. Do what you need to go through and face those feelings, and then you can easily let it go. So, yeah, it sounds like you definitely had that journey in life. And If you don't mind, Sara, if you want to share a little bit more about, your cancer journey and the learnings from that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. So for me, as I said, cancer, I thought, it was just an incredible invitation for me to heal. And so I made a decision when I was diagnosed that I couldn't control what was physically happening. But in order for me, because it was in my lymph node. So, I mean, I was told very clearly if, it had been left another few months, would have been a totally different story. So I was very lucky to get it, lucky or divine intervention, whatever you would say. I just, when I found out that I was gonna let go of what I couldn't control, and I just started to do, like, really get deep into my meditations. I would do a lot of Dr. Joe Dispenza's work and Eckhart Tolle and pretty much anyone else. And every day I just connected to that part of me that was peaceful. And I got to the point where I was physically in incredible pain and my body was weak, but I just felt so peaceful and okay. I connected to the true essence of who I was. And the funny thing is that one of the things I'd always, as I said, I always focused on what I was good at and what I could control and didn't really do the things I didn't want to do. And so one of that was always having an ability to build an amazing body. I could, build muscle, I could put on weight, lose weight, I could, look fantastic. And I put a lot of shop in that, I had a big journey around, eating disorders and worthiness. And then when I got cancer and, I had both my breasts removed, I had no hair, I had no eyebrows, everything, I just felt free. It's like it didn't matter anymore. And it was that beautiful invitation, because all that focus on, because I guess my physicality was like an armor. I did CrossFit, I was a coach, I was strong, I was, I looked pretty amazing, and that's what I presented to the world. I mean, I would also just talk about my journey around mental health and how CrossFit and physical exercise helped me so much. And, I do ice baths and I was this. And then when I got cancer and, everything was stripped away, it was like, well, who are you really? How much of that is actually you? And how much of that is actually just something that you're portraying to the world to not, to keep yourself, I don't know, safe?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? It sounds like, as you were saying, it was like protecting you in some ways, but then you got that real freeing feeling of, once it was kind of, the focus wasn't on that anymore.
No, and I ended up being away from my family because, of course, when I got cancer, COVID just hit.
Yeah.
So everything was locked down, and we were in the Northern Territory at the time. And as a family, we made the decision for me to go to Adelaide for treatment, but we didn't know that the borders were going to be shut. And so I didn't see my children for 4 months, 5 months.
Wow.
And that was hugely impactful, especially on my youngest. And, I mean, my children had to face that possibility that I I might die. And I was that mum that was, always showed up for them and was always open and honest about my feelings, and never claimed to be, I'm not a perfect mother. I've never claimed to be a perfect mother, but I love my family and I love my children, and we were lucky enough as a family to, I could just work when I needed to work with my coaching, and my husband, he is a wonderful provider for our family, and it allowed me to, just really be able to be with my children and be present for them. And when I got sick, I wasn't able to do that. And that was really, really tough. And it was like when having cancer, I had to let go of everything that my whole life, like I had to let go. Everything changed for me as a wife, as a mother. I didn't feel the way I used to. I had to just let everything go, even the things I thought I could never let go. But from that place, when I was able to face that fear and see what was underneath, everyone always told me I was really strong, but I kind of felt, I think, like a bit of a fraud, like they only saw me as strong because I just showed them that part. But actually, I found what it really is to be strong, and that was who I innately am. And my life has never been the same since. And while as a family, we're still picking up the pieces, because my journey is ongoing. Like I've just started, I'm through menopause, but I still have to take estrogen blockers, and they make me feel really ill. And I still have some other little health things that are ongoing with from treatment. And like it's learning how, again, to let go of who I was and embrace who I am, and meet life from here. And I see the possibilities, and I also see how I feel blessed to have had this experience, as traumatic as it has been. And as a family, we're still trying to adjust and pick up the pieces, because it has had an enormous toll on our family. But nonetheless, I do believe that we will find a way through. And it's allowed me to really, I think coaching, really, to be totally honest with you, I just wanted a platform and a certification to do what I love. And that's to support people on their journey home to themselves, and show up for their best, show up for themselves, and then live that beautiful life, and help them to unpack and overcome and move, go over, through, whatever it needs to happen to connect to that place in them, and to what you said about, to know that they are not that little voice, to be the watcher, to gain that awareness, and then from there decide, create what is, if you could have that. Because what I see so much with my clients is, people say, I really want to get that job, or I really want to get that house, or I want to feel confident. And then every single time it comes back to, it's what that will make them feel. When they connect, when they achieve that goal, that will give them a feeling of what? It's always a feeling. So what if they can have that? What if they can connect to that feeling now? What's one thing that they can start to connect to that feeling every day? What's a little goal? What's a little step? What's a little habit? What's a little shift? Empower. Because those big goals are great, and we all, we've all got them. But really, from what I observe, people are they're wanting just peace and happiness, and they associate certain things with giving them that.
The thing is, I think, Sarah, too, what I come across is a lot of people actually, when they think about goals, it's kind of very superficial goals.
Yeah.
And it's not really, once you start really digging deep down, what is your wish and why do you want that? And why is
Yeah.
that important to you? And
The
why is
why.
that important to you? And why is that important to you? And why is that important to you? Until you get to that real place where
Why.
it becomes a little bit raw. As I was listening to you before, I was also thinking about a lot of women that go to the gym, and they go to the gym perhaps for the reason of just, I want to lose a little bit of weight. I want to look way. And it's very much like that. And that's what they're after, but they're kind of not really there for a deeper why. What message? I'm just thinking now, you've been in the health and fitness industry, and I've worked in that industry for very many years as well. What would your message be to women that come in and say, oh, I just want to lose a little bit of weight around here? And how do you feel about that now? And what would be one of the messages you would give them?
Well, my first question was why would you like to do that? How would that make you feel? And usually it's about like what you just said. It's usually around, or if I had that, then I'd feel more confident. Okay, what does confident mean to you? What is it to be confident? And a lot of it is people just want to be loved and accepted, and they want to feel good. And we associate going to a gym and looking a certain way, being a certain way. And I mean, we all know that on a, it does actually change your chemistry. Exercise is really important, but it's also the thoughts, that are associated with exercise and your kind of concept of what exercise is doing to you. Get really clear. Why do you want to go to the gym? What is this going to give you? And if you're not clear, let's have a conversation about it.
Absolutely. When I used to do a lot of group classes, and I had women coming in and men as well, because they wanted to get fit or they wanted to get stronger or whatever. But it was quite interesting. I had a few people of them. After a while, when we kind of look at their goals in the past, they said, that's not really important to me at all. Do you know what? I love coming because of their camaraderie and the social connection, and stuff my husband because I don't really care anymore. Now it's about me. And actually, I'm okay with being a few kilos overweight. So isn't that so interesting that sometimes with a little bit of time, when they start to connect with themselves, they realize that was based on someone else's wishes or
I had a very interesting experience with that many years ago when I was training a group of women in New Zealand, and these women had anything from experienced postpartum depression to domestic violence, and they all had significant challenges in their life. And I think we worked together for maybe 8 weeks. It was sort of like an 8-week program. It was sort of a bit of a pilot program. We were still kind of figuring stuff out. But what transpired from that is, same thing. They showed up with, I'm going to hear, I'm so ugly, or I'm so overweight, I'm so this. You hear the judgment, criticism, boom, boom. What they came away with, was, they connected to other women. They built each other up. They found who they were in those moments when sometimes I'd push their bodies pretty hard, and then there'd be this kind of switch. Wow, actually, maybe I am stronger than I think. So many of them went on to leave these relationships, start to make positive choices, go get back into work. And I can't work because my husband, get job. And it was all because there was a moment where they had that connection. to something that was always there all along. But through a process of working together, they were able to find it within themselves and then start to make empowered choices within. And the flow on, I mean, you could just say it was just an exercise group, but the flow on was that it impacted hugely on other areas in their lives.
So obviously the health and fitness has given you a lot of tools, and you also have realized through that time, as I hear it, that mindset obviously is so important. And I can imagine that's why you're now studying life coaching too, because that's obviously dealing a lot with the mindset and the wishes a person has. Is that the reason for you getting into that area, Sara? Or?
Yeah, it really is. It's just kind of tying it all together for me. And I've finished all the modules. So I've done all the modules, and basically I've just got my supervision sessions that I'm working through. So it's going really well. And I just feel so blessed, really, to be able to be so clear that this is the path I want to be on. And I just have a passion for serving others. I really, really do. Now that I know really strongly exactly who I am authentically and the power in that, I just want to be able to support others to connect to who they truly are and meet life from that place in whatever shape, form, avenue that takes. And so life coaching through the J Shetty certification school has been a platform of being able to do that. But I'd be doing this anyway. I'd be doing this for free, even if you didn't ask. I talk to anyone. I love it. I love people. I love helping people. But I believe ultimately the only thing I want to help someone with is to believe in their own potential. Because I believe we've got everything we need inside us. We just got to connect to it. Everything. Every little thing. And there's so many modalities and ways, you'd know in your work of doing that, but ultimately we hold the keys.
So what would it give you when you're able to really help people?
What would it give me? Just peace. It's not really, no, I already have peace. It's just a continuation of, this is why I'm on this earth. Just to be a kind and loving, compassionate human, and to just let go of everything that doesn't serve myself and support others on their journeys to just being their best selves, really. I think it kind of sounds cheesy, but I really believe it.
Yeah. I've learned since my years of assisting people that it's crucially important to do as much self-care and self-love through their journey, and especially when dealing with people and other energies, particularly people in our situation. We come from a place of wanting to be helpers, we help as healers and so on. What I've learned is it's really, really important to have like a big self-care kind of self-love schedule. What are some of the things? I know you mentioned the Wim Hof and the cold therapy, obviously, where I met you. So what are some of the things? Yeah, you did mention meditation too, but what are the things that you love just doing yourself to nurture yourself?
Yeah, so I mean, I get up at 4:00 every morning, and that is for one reason only, and that is to get into the driver's seat of my life, because I don't want my car taking off down the highway without me being in the driver's seat. And so I have a whole practice and ritual that I do in the mornings of breath work, meditation, cold therapy, yoga, and Tibetan rite exercises. And that for me is the paramount aspect of my self-care. I mean, obviously, I still am recovering from the effects of chemo. So I need to be very mindful that I get enough rest and quality sleep. I've also gone through menopause, whatever medically induced menopause. So I'm all over the shop with my sleeping and hot flushes and everything. So getting good rest is hugely important. And but the most important thing is just being kind to myself, kind and nourishing my body, my mind, and my spirit in whatever way that looks on the day, and if I can't manage to do the things that usually I need to do to feel good, having just compassion for myself and adjusting it to something that I can manage. I love the water. I love the beach. I just feel have lived in Alice Springs. I came from the coast, so I grew up by the water, been in the desert for like 6 years. So living in Torquay, where we have access to that ocean, that fills my soul. I could just sit there and I want to get back into paddling.
Okay.
So I used to do, I think you call it outrigger canoe. Yeah, you call it outrigger. We call it wakaama in New Zealand. So I used to do that.
Yeah. Well, there's some down here in Torquay. You can always contact them. And if you're brave enough, I'll let you give my surf ski a
go. Oh, exciting. I'd love to. Yeah, absolutely. That'd be amazing.
Yeah. Well, you definitely are choosing a beautiful life now, aren't you?
I definitely am. And I am grateful for every single day. I'm grateful for the opportunities that come, for the growth, for the experience of just being alive. Actually, like, that's actually a real thing for me, that I am alive. Like, I don't just say that flippantly. And this time in lockdown, I know it's so tough for a lot of people, and I just really want to say to you all that you do have what you need inside you, and I just invite you to look at those parts of you that are causing you to feel all that irritation and stress and frustration. And if reach out, we're all here, let's help each other, let's support one another. And that's what's been required, just to start caring for each other in this fast-paced life, and we live in an age of technology. We can do it via Zoom, we can do it, but I mean, personally, and I know I've heard you say too, like what you're offering through all your program, just we're here. If you want to chat, if you want to just some help, we're here. Let us let us help you. We know it's tough, and our love is going to you all.
That's where those masks, Sarah, I think people put on that brave mask, and they're a bit scared to show their vulnerability and with people, because perhaps they're scared of being judged. Or perhaps, it's really interesting because, I guess if someone really is struggling to, I'd say sometimes it could be better to go and see someone that can help you deal with it. Sometimes it may not be the best thing to go to your partner. Sometimes having someone a little bit on the outside as a coach can be really, really beneficial, completely in a non-judging
space,
in a very safe space.
Absolutely.
I was talking to my partner that does counseling work and CBT as well. And we were just talking about me as a coach and he as a counselor. And I said, where I get my real passion from is when I can guide, my clients through those emotions that are a little bit harder to face. And
Absolutely.
all that space, because that's where I just find, I don't know, there's something magic that happens there. Love, I don't know what it is, but it's so beautiful. And everyone is beautiful deep down. It's all that conditioning that is, and that's where the compassion can come from people too, even where we just don't get how some people can be in their adult life the way they be and the decision they make and so on. But, if we look at it from a perspective of this person was once a little child and depended on what circumstances they had, obviously will form them in their life. But saying that, I also think we need to then recognize we still have got a choice. We're not destined to base it on, this is where I came from, and we keep repeating that story rather than creating a new story, which I believe is possible.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I could not agree more. And, we do choose. Ultimately, we do choose. We choose every moment, every day. And if we're choosing one way, you don't have to keep doing it. You can choose to shift and do things a different way. But sometimes and often that requires you to really dig a bit deeper and understand why you keep choosing that. Because when you understand why you've chosen that way that you've done all your life, it's not really helping you anymore. Then with that awareness, you can do something different.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's been an amazing hour with you, Sara. I know we could keep talking for ages and ages. For any of our listeners or anyone watching this video, feel free to reach out to either myself or Sara. We will have the details underneath the video or the podcast, so feel free to reach out. And Sara, to you, I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
For the future. And it's been such a pleasure to have this conversation with you. And I definitely hope that we can stay in touch and
absolutely
on our journey. So thank you very much. Is there something you want to say to the listeners before we stop here today?
I just want to thank you so much for this opportunity of being on your podcast. It means a lot to me that to be having been able to do that. And to everyone that's listening out there, just know, if you don't know it now, I really hope you can learn to know just how incredible you are and what you are truly capable of when you let go of everything that you are not. And if you need any support to help you with anything around that, we're here.
Thank you so much, Sara.
You're so welcome.
You have a wonderful rest of the day, and I'll see you down the beach, no doubt.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.